Hi, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Keptn community meeting. Today is October 14th. Yeah, as always, please indicate your attendance by adding yourself to the attendee list. Without further ado, I will actually already hand over to our first agenda item. This week is KubeCon, so there is a lot of people are also at KubeCon. Everyone that is there, have fun. I'm sure it's a great event also this year. It's a hybrid event. There's also some Keptn activities going on there. Probably we can share more in the next meeting of the learnings of KubeCon and what we have our conversations there and what we've learned. But I'm already handing over to Nicas to present his work from the latest weeks or even months on combining Gitlab and Keptn. So handing over to you, and thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, probably I did a short introduction in the meantime where I'm trying to share my screen. So my name is Nicas. I'm working for a company who's doing mostly buzzwords, so I do blockchain and Kubernetes. But that's a different topic where I'm not today for here. And I am also a Gitlab hero, so I do really like to work with Gitlab and all the stuff. And today I want to share mostly the results that we get over the last month. So it's like an ongoing activity. So looking a little back in the past, we started, I think, this 1 year ago mostly. So the most initial work was done by Christian Heckelmann. So at Twitter Wurstsalat. So he did the initial version. And yeah, then we figured out after some meantime where we are. So I've also presented I bring up also some slides to get a little bit overview what we are doing today or where we are currently. So I made a cruel change here. So I had, of course, in hard and adding here the Gitlab logo so that we have everything important in place. And yeah, so let's dive into the topic. So mostly, probably all of you are already familiar with Keptn in this meeting, and I don't need to tell about what we currently the use case are. So mostly we will extend the use case in terms of also using GitLab for the part of delivery and probably later in future also more, but it's another topic. So when I talked about, this is an ongoing project, it's really an ongoing project because when is the diagram big enough? Can you see it, or should I make it a little bit bigger? Because I think it's right. I make a short trick. Oh no, it doesn't stay with me. So when you're coming from the past, so as I said, it's like an ongoing practice, and we started initially with version 0.7 with GitLab and Keptn mostly, and we had a lot of different services. So also the potato head was not there in the meantime, and we have also 2 different Prometheus servers. So we had the ideas, or mostly when Christian was presenting it, he showed all the monitoring with Dynatrace to this point, and I was really curious about it. Oh, I really use mostly on my daily work and also my free time only Prometheus for monitoring. And I said, okay, it would be probably a good idea to have an example working with Prometheus. So, and in the end, we started to working on that. So first, taking up at least the old version with version 7. So then the time flies a little bit. And we had the problem a little of updating also Keptn to the latest version. And that there we are now trying to achieve in the end. So also in this meeting, what I want to show here. So what we are now, the current state is, it's updated.
Sorry for interrupting, but can you go into presentation mode, because then it will be a little bit bigger.
Okay, then then probably wait on. I need to reshare my screen.
No, it's working. All good. We can see the presentation mode.
Interesting, because I shared only a window. Okay, that's Zoom magic. Yeah, cool. Then we do it that way. Yeah, okay. Okay.
Yeah, thanks. Perfect.
Okay, yeah, sorry, because I have a 4K monitor, I was not sure if it's not too small, then that's the reason why I didn't share the full screen. And now we have a lot of updates mostly outside the Keptn community. So it means like we switching back from the Prometheus SLI service was in the past single service, and we had the Prometheus service. in the end, and this mostly now converted into a single service. And yeah, that means that, okay, we need to do also some changes. Mostly what is also out today of scope a little bit is the Gitlab service. Currently we need also to update it to the latest version to accept all the new event files in these cases. But I can show you where the direction is heading to. And also what we currently will change in the demo is mostly that we also going using, instead of JMeter, we're starting doing the load test with Locust in the end. So yeah, that's it. Yeah, so mostly then it's the interesting part in terms of where can Gitlab take place. So also in our example, so we use a little bit the concept architecture. So I added Gitlab where I see it currently everywhere. So we could use it also leveraging the Gitlab GitOps agent for that, but it's also another story. Mostly we will use today Gitlab for the container registry and also for the continuous delivery in terms of we will deploy directly from Gitlab into our Kubernetes cluster, and then will Keptn take place in terms of doing the load testing and doing the stuff of getting the Prometheus results and so on. So for that, I have prepared a demo, so I will switch a little bit now. So let me check. Yeah, cool. Currently, as you can see here, so we have an own Gitlab instance on that, a Kubernetes cluster with a Gitlab instance where we can see at least the hardening stage, so our project in ECC, and we want to take a deeper look in here. So mostly, we have currently only one stage. We have currently seen that the quality gate is failing, but that's okay for the current state. Yeah. So mostly the more interesting part is now in terms of now switching back to GitLab, what GitLab is in the end doing. So all the repositories are open source, so everyone can see it. So they're coming from the everyone can contribute group. So you can go under Keptn, and there are a lot of repositories. The most interesting repository right to start is mostly the Keptn or the potato head Keptn demo repository, where we really deploying the application and starting to trigger in the Keptn pipelines. So for that, as you're probably familiar also a little bit with GitLab, so this is a project, and we have currently our old CI/CD configuration is written in the file stored GitLab CI YAML. So where we're doing in the end the configuration. So, and for that, we have now different stages. So we will look now into the parts of doing the build, the testing, the Keptn onboarding. So it means like, okay, when you start up a new project in GitLab, Keptn doesn't know about it. For that case, you need to do also Keptn onboarding from the CI/CD system so that everything goes in the place of having the Keptn on board so that we can start the deployment. So for that, we will start then the onboarding. The onboarding is mostly a simple script. So in GitLab, what we're mostly using here is a concept of templates. So we have different predefined YAMLs in terms of helping you to set up easier the CI/CD pipeline stuff. And so, for example, for config, we have these onboarding YAML, what we can include in the end. And this will do the real steps in terms of getting the Keptn project onboarded, pushing the shipyard YAML, pushing all the resources that are currently required in terms of Prometheus and SLI in this case. And that's the mostly part about the onboarding. So when we now would start the pipeline in the end, we can do that. Let's trigger a pipeline in the project. So we will do a short trigger. And also what is probably a little bit different to the other clusters. So it's like, this is the current upstream potato head repository. So I made only a small change in the, I added a GitLab folder there. So you have a typically GitLab CI/CD example there. So it's only the fake, it's mostly the same repository like everything else. And but what we here have is like a chart for doing like the deployment of a potato app. So what we will do in the end is when we trigger in the pipeline, we can see here now that we now it's running on, but we can go in the previous job. So we were building our Docker image, then we starting the onboarding process in the end in terms of registration, the whole application to Keptn. And then afterwards, we starting the deployment. So our deployment mechanism is now not that Keptn will do the job for us, so Gitlab will do it. And for that, we will leveraging mostly, we were starting with commands, letting Keptn know, okay, that the deployment sequence is started mostly. So this will be done through a script. Will show you later how the script is working. Afterwards, we starting the deployment started event so that we have the sequence. And then we starting a normal Helm upgrade. So we're doing the application deployment with a Helm file. So mostly because in our company, we're working mostly with Helm, and I really like the approach and steps of, okay, GitLab is doing the pushing of the application. And yeah, so in the end, when the whole deployment is finished, we're sending also the deployment finished event where the Keptn recognize, okay, the deployment is done, so we can go into the next sequence. So now when we are looking into the sequences, so you can now see here that the deployment was triggered. You can see here also that the event was started mostly. And now you can see, okay, also the deployment has finished. So now locals will be informed in terms of through the onboarding. Also what is here now interesting, as you probably saw in the previous version of the GitLab Keptn integration, we have also the support of labels here so that you can put meta information for your testing or also for other services later. So in terms of probably when you are here now in Keptn, you want to go to back which pipeline is currently running, you can click here on the CI backlink, and then you're coming back directly into your CI CD pipeline where currently the deployment was done. So it's really cool, and we can add a lot of more services in the end.
Nicas, can I just ask a question here? The source service, that's one service that you provided. It's not.
Yeah. It's nothing like a special service. I will come. Yeah, probably it's a good state now because Lotus kicks in. Regarding the source service, as I said, we have. I have built up scripts mostly to do that. So, and we have here the Keptn Docker repository. We have like really simple wrapper scripts in terms of sending Keptn events to get started to Keptn it now when a deployment is started and so on. So mostly here we're starting in terms of our deployment. So we're sending here the full event. And also here's where the source event is coming from. So we can specify here the source, and then we can check. It's the typical JSON out of the Keptn spec, mostly, with all provided values in terms of to triggering the event so that the event will be triggered in the correct stage. Afterwards, we send it this file with the context ID. We need to store the context because it's important to be in the same sequence in the end. So for that, we now can start with the deployment started. So for that, we have the deployment started. Deployment, and this is really doing the same. It does a little bit more magic, or not, I not say magic in the end, but what it does in the line 27 to line 30, it waits until, because Keptn, during the development, I found out, okay, currently we're triggering the delivery, but the problem is that the deployment event will be generated, so I need to wait for that. And that's the reason why I loop here mostly in the Keptn group. So I wait here until this event is starting. So I check with, I fetch all the events from the Keptn CLI, and then doing with a simple JQ checking when the deployment trigger ID is there, because I need to get this ID in the end to handle the deployment started event in the correct order. Otherwise, the sequence will never finish. That was a problem that I found out after a little bit debugging. And so, and here's also the source, here's the source service. So we can also put here in GitLab CI, so for better naming. Okay, that's a good mark. And also then you can see here all the labels that we saw in the Keptn UI are also here. Mostly we can define them mostly in the way that's used. Interesting that these fields are mostly ignored in some way. We should remove them afterwards. And then when we are finished with the deployment started event, we can determine, we will do it in the CI CD mostly when we starting with the GitLab, blah, blah, blah. So we have here triggered now the deployment starting, executing the Helm upgrade process. After the Helm upgrade process was done, we sending the deployment finished to Keptn. So Keptn knows, okay, now we need to go into the next sequence task mostly. And then automatically the test stage will be triggered to configuring our stages. And then we starting the evaluation, because the evaluation comes in terms of from the configuration mostly. So we have also, probably I forgot that in the beginning, when we're going back into delivery, GitLab, going into the shipyard YAML. So we passed now mostly the deployment stage. Now we are on the testing stage, and now we are in the evaluation phase. And so, as I said, for evaluation, I really want to use Prometheus. And mostly these days, a lot of people set up not a simple Prometheus service. When you're running it in Kubernetes, you're probably also using the Prometheus operator in the end to do the full deployment. So that was also our goal. Okay, so we want to have a really self-burdened service in terms of, so that we can also leverage the Prometheus operator for that. So I will switch now. Yeah, because now we see also here the results. So we can also check, okay, the evaluation is now currently failing. But this is mostly tied, so we're getting here the values correctly back, but I assume that something with the percentage is not correct in the evaluation. So that something is still affecting in the Prometheus service, because I got the value about 98%, or it depends on how the pass-through tier is implemented. So they have currently not the clue why this is not evaluated correctly, but we will figure it out afterwards. So a bit.
Nico,
yeah.
Can you do me a favor? Oh, can you do me a favor and jump to the column that is highlighted on the left, or with the no to the,
left?
to the no in the heat map there is this green to the left, please. There is this green color, or the last green
it's the date 2021 and May 16th. So
this
if we go,
the event
in the heat map, as Jürgen said and pointed out, just select the column with the date 16th of May 1225.
If you go left here, left. It's in the first.
Yes, this one. Can you click on that one? Okay.
There was during the testing, so I started independently evaluation.
Yeah, and here we have a value of 0, and the current value that we measure is above. It's 0.9, and this is an increase of more than 100%. That's the reason why this SLI is currently failing.
Why? Because because it's a smaller equals, and we are increasing greater than 100%. Okay, yeah, then I got it. Okay, then it's I need to fix then our shipyard. So our potato head service is really good in terms of improving and for testing. But thanks, and I have learned why. Yeah, and mostly now coming to the interest point in terms of getting all the metrics data here. So I set up the Prometheus operator. We can see here also that it's running. Currently, the Prometheus operator is deployed So here we have a different concept. So mostly you would not write directly in your Prometheus YAML the changes. So the Prometheus operator has the concept of a service monitor, and the service monitor can scrape multiple Kubernetes services for getting the metrics. And the hard finding, or the most interesting point out of that was, okay, the job name, mostly because the Prometheus service has currently the assumption so that the job needs to be suffixed with -canary. We also need to rename the standard pattern in the service monitor a little bit, but I will show you now how technically it's working. So because mostly when we are going back into the, so for example, now fetching the request of a potato head. So we can see here currently 240 requests were done. And also it's coming from the canary service, and the potato, it was mostly tested. So, and this is the reason where the value is coming from. So for that, I will switch now my screen, but I need to find my, there, give me 1 second. And, yeah, cool. So, good. Yeah, you see a little bit more here. I configured also the Prometheus service mostly. Now we can look into that. So we have here a normal Keptn setup. Mostly we have here also the Prometheus service configuration. So for that, and when you look into the where our Prometheus operator is living, the Prometheus operator is living in another namespace, so in the kube Prometheus stack namespace. So currently here Prometheus is living with the operator, and all the stuff for monitoring is in the operator namespace. And now we need to instruct 2 parts. So first off would be that the application now, so the Prometheus know which application needs to be scraped. So, and for that we're using a custom resource. It's called service monitor, and this is mostly placed in this namespace. So in the potato head namespace, and when we are looking on that, I mostly make a small change on that. Blah, blah, blah. So a service monitor.
Is it possible here to increase the font size a little bit?
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
No problem.
Cool.
Sorry, that's true. And currently I define here like the service. So this is like the instruction which Kubernetes service should be scraped, and you can also dictate which label should be used. And I tricked it a little bit out in terms of that I used here that by default it would use the service name. But as I said, we need to have this -prefix canary. I said, okay, use a label from the service, and the label is called Keptn job. So when I now look into the service, you can see here, here's the name of the jobs. That's the reason why it's so hard-coded in the end. And this is also in the Helm chart to put the canary field on that for the Prometheus service so that it can scrape the events. So now we have this. Then the next interesting point, okay, how now the Prometheus service gets the data. So the Prometheus service lives in the Keptn namespace. It has a little different configuration. So here we can see, so mostly the biggest impact is so that I pointed out to the existing Prometheus instance and the Prometheus namespace, but everything by that is, anything else is like the default. So there's nothing changed in terms of that the SLIs are worked on. It doesn't work in the end. So these were most changes that you need to do to have it up and running. So the Prometheus endpoint is also important here. This is the default one. You can also overwrite it with a secret so that you can say also for your project convention a secret with another Prometheus endpoint. You can also configure that. But for easier bootstrapping, I say the Prometheus operator is like the default instance for every service that we use in the end. And that's it mostly from the technical part to get everything up and running with the Prometheus operator in GitLab and Keptn. But let's look back into the stage of in my turn, but give me 1 second. No, because I can't see it anymore. Oh, there. Okay, cool. Yeah. So and that's all the data that we have now. In terms of now, we could assume, okay, we could probably go into the next stage with it up and running. Mostly here, we to see it now from the with all the concepts is mostly like, okay, GitLab is doing the job of deploying our application, so doing the deployment. And then we could coming back into a later point, okay, we could say that also GitLab gets notified and run probably a new pipeline, for example, during the next release promotion, all the stuff. For this, we have the GitLab service, but the GitLab service needs to be a little bit polished again in terms of that it needs to listen to the correct events, but that's another topic. So when we are looking back going into our slides, so we saw literally the whole flow in terms of what GitLab is currently doing. It's doing the deployment of a potato head. We saw the metrics, the SLI metrics, the Prometheus server is connected. The Prometheus operator controls the Prometheus and the alert manager, and mostly having a full flow of deploying all the stuff. Yeah, so the more interesting parts, what's coming now up next is really, of course, I added here, of course, the delivery of the GitLab icons, so mostly in the slides, so everyone is aware of that. Yeah, but the more interesting parts now, what's the next steps? So for that, first of all, we need to give some kudos to more people, because I was not the only person that worked mostly on the whole project. Wusterlard worked on his DNS machine from GitLab also, so he provided the space and where everyone can contribute. Also the Kubernetes setup. And Philip, who was also working with me for the technical stuff in some parts. So the next steps are mostly bringing up the quality gates, some information from the quality gates also in GitLab again. And the bigger path is mostly to bring the Keptn GitLab service back to life. So, for example, that we can fulfill the use case of triggering when the deployment from the GitLab service to GitLab that says, okay, please deploy now the production stage, so that we can also have multi-stage delivery from GitLab instead of using this in Keptn. So also remediation is the same concept in terms of deployment. It's only doing a rollback. And also what would be really cool, what I see mostly, what's important, so from my colleagues currently also is like, so that some automated responses in merge requests is open. So when you would do like a testing phase, the test results will be put into directly in the merge request, and so that you can easily see everything in the GitLab ecosystem. And of course, I think the next bigger step for the community is here. So to have like a more guided walkthrough and how to set up the current setup that we have, so that everyone can try it out, because mostly it's like in a state where it's working, but it's not like in a repeatable way working. So most of times it's a lot of scripts, but more like a guided walkthrough what I currently can see in terms of waypoints. Yeah, and that's it mostly from the GitLab integration, or the current state of the GitLab integration.
Really cool, awesome.
Really cool stuff.
Nico, just one question out of curiosity. Which version of the Prometheus service are you using?
I used the latest version, but I need to do a change on that. I will send up also a pull request, because currently the Prometheus server is probably not working, because it started up two services on port 8080, because there will be an HTTP server started and then the cloud event servers, and this is currently a blocking part. But okay, I will send up a pull request to fix that.
Cool, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so.
I think it's pretty cool to see this this working, and also now we have a. It's not yet the here on the slides we see that the guided walkthrough, but we can already see it in action. We already have now everything. If someone wants to rebuild it, if are there any questions on this integration?
Do you believe there is functionality that you implemented that should go into the Keptn CLI? So let's say helper bash scripts that should really be actually implemented in the CLI in Go code that would probably reduce the complexity of your pipeline?
Yeah, I would say probably in terms of CLI, it would be interesting to have like something in the direction. Wait, let me pointing back to my slides and going back. So we could think about community would be probably cool to have like the events so that we could template the events in some way. But I think it should be also complex in terms of that's the case because I really leveraging the Keptn CLI everywhere where I can. So mostly that I don't need to do anything of using other parsing. But what be a cool other CLI feature is mostly to have also more like, or probably I'm not aware of that. So when I checking for events so that I can select to a different type of events. Instead of that, I need to do like via JQ, via parsing the correct event type to get the event. Yeah, that's the current CLI stuff that I currently can see.
I think you can pass the event type in here.
Okay, then I need to recheck it.
But there is different options. So maybe depending on what you choose, you might not be able to provide some other options, but I think it's possible. Nevertheless, I think the event sending itself is something we should consider. Like, I mean, in this case, like the data has project stage, service, etc. Like you will repeat this. This is a repeated pattern, right? Same for labels. Maybe an option to just provide, let's say, minus values, similar to what you can do in Helm when you do a Helm upgrade or Helm install, could help, because then you would avoid having to write spec version, source type, data content type, etc. So like just really sending data attributes in the form of a values file or whatever, that would probably reduce a lot of code from your pipeline.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that was also the most challenge, because when I were in the version 0.7, okay, the events was a little bit different, and then I need to understand the concept. Okay, you need to trigger this and this. When I would do it like in a higher programming language in Golang or something like that, it would be a little bit easier. So, but
actually, no. Because you would have to take in the dependency and then all your code breaks, because this is the pain that we are having. So in bash script, you have the benefit of doubt that you don't know which data type you work with. It helps.
Okay. Yeah. But anything else runs mostly smoothly. So that currently can't see improvement.
Okay,
yeah,
thanks.
Mostly it will be really interesting. So I will probably pick up. I currently don't give an ATA on that, but I will probably pick up the work now again on the Gitlab servers, and tune this also a little bit up so that we get it also like the usage that we have already, to have it also up and running again. Because I think this is then the more value in terms of that you have really. It could be then two systems, but if you have all the information in one system, mostly, for example, also for developer focused stuff, it's really cool so that you can add this. Yeah, I think this is the big challenge in Keptn at all, right? So because we have too many services, or we have a lot of services, and getting all the integration, mostly the event handling is quite different in terms of when you probably work in a sync way. In a synchronous way. Mostly all the stuff in Keptn is really async because it's pasted through events in the end. Yeah. that's very, very hard, but it gives us also great extensibility. So I mean, that's like not a drawback.
Also regarding the GitLab service, as you mentioned this, please check the current development we have with Keptn. We have a webhook service that we're working on, and it will allow just sending post, get, whatever kind of HTTP request to anywhere. So maybe the GitLab service might not be the primary point of implementation anymore, and it could be used like via the webhook service directly. Would make it easier for the end user, obviously, because you don't have to install a separate service.
Yeah.
I can
cool.
provide you an example for that with Jenkins if you want.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, then we can probably ping up also back to the GitLab people also. Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much. Any other questions? Okay, then thanks again, Nicas, for presenting this really cool stuff. Then I'm handing over to, I don't know who is actually working on the next agenda item. The next review will be presented using Keptn on Keptn. Anyone who wants to comment on this or put this on the agenda?
No, it's just a reminder for next week.
Okay, then I will put it actually at the, I just say here, reminder. Oh, sorry, I was not sharing. Unfortunately, I need to jump because, yeah, today I'm in another Dynatrace lab. I will hand over the host, and I think I will also hand over to Suraj for the next agenda item. So if you want to discuss the PRs, please go ahead.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, we can
Yes,
hear you.
we can hear you.
Suraj.
Okay, well, let me know if there's a lot of noise. Yeah, so let me share my screen, sorry. My screen is visible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
yeah.
So I think the first one, Florian, we reviewed the PR, which is basically around skipping the version check if the automatic version check flag is set to false in the config. I have one comment on that from Florian, I think. Yeah, this one. Just need to remove the lock statement and I think we should be good to go. You can read more about the issue and more about the PR in the issue. And yeah, I just picked up this issue yesterday where we basically switching from CLI config manager, which is a struct that we use to read in Keptn config, and switching it with Viper instead. We were using Viper in the root CLI command, but I removed it, and then this is an issue to add it back. So the earlier PR used an implementation of CLI manager in the root command as well. It's a different PR altogether. So I wouldn't talk much about it, but it's basically replacing the CLI config manager's implementation using Viper. So the PR is in work in progress. I think I started working on this yesterday. And one more thing was new maintenance do not appear in the Keptn organization. So I'm not sure if that is how it should be. But I think Jürgen said something along the lines that maintenance appear in the organization, which is, I'm assuming this is the screen, and I don't see new members being displayed here. So I just thought I'd bring this up. And I think that's pretty much it.
Okay. Thanks for pointing out the situation that new members or maintainers don't show up. Can you please share again your screen?
Sorry. Yeah, I think the screen just went out. Sorry. Yeah.
And can you show us who shows up in this list?
Oh, yeah. So I think this is when it probably started. So the last added member was Anna. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her name
Yeah.
right, but so Anna does not appear in the members list.
All
In
right.
the Keptn organization.
Okay, there are 14
so I think,
members.
Yeah. So everyone, I think, after Anna, probably does not appear in the members list. I've not checked all of them, but I've checked Anna's. Anna does not appear. My name does not appear either. I'm not sure if there's someone new that was added. Yeah, this is something I noticed. Thought I would bring it up.
Yep, thanks for pointing out, and we will see to get this fixed.
All right, I think that's all from mine. Thank you.
All right, then let me just take it over, but actually finish this session because we don't have any additional item on the agenda. So I'm asking if there are questions from someone. Not in the chat, not in the Q&A. Okay, silent, not the case. Then again, thanks Nico for presenting the power demo of how you're using Keptn. It's always cool and to see the use cases and the way that users are stretching Keptn for their for implementing their use cases. Really awesome. And if you are kind and could file the PR for the Prometheus service, we would really appreciate that.
Yeah, I will do it in the next hour mostly.
So no rush needed. Okay, thanks for joining. Thanks for listening in this week. Stay tuned. Next week we will go over new features and what have been accomplished this week and the next one. So that we will see the new enhancements that have been implemented. That's then all to say. Have a nice day. Stay tuned and see you then next Thursday. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.